before we go back the other way, let me ask you about Dodd-Frank and the legislation. There's a plan now in Congress that the Texas Republican chairman of the Financial Committee is advancing that would significantly weaken it, would repeal the Volcker rule and allow the largest banks to exempt themselves from capital and liquidity. What do you think of Dodd-Frank? Is it strong? Is it working?
It needs to be supported. It doesn't go far enough. I also support Glass-Steagall, which is an excellent Depression-era law that says something very simple that a child can understand. If the federal government is going to insure your deposits, then you don't have a right to gamble with the people's money and expect the government to bail you out when you get in trouble. That law was on the books since the 30s. It needs to go back on the books. I also support Dodd-Frank. It needs to be strengthened, but we aren't going far enough. We also need new regulations in this country to regulate shadow banking industries. There are plenty of financial institutions that do not take your deposits, that are doing risky things with their dollars, that are, quote, what the Fed calls systemically important institutions that can bring this country down. I support Dodd-Frank, I support Glass-Steagall, but those two laws would not have prevented the mortgage crisis meltdown that went to a head in 2008. If we don't crack down on money markets and hedge funds that do risky things that are systemically important to the US economy, then we are just a few years away from the next crisis.
I'll start with Dodd-Frank, and then I'll move to the tax code. Do you remember where you were in September 2008? I do too. And this should tell you what I am going to do, because this is what I did in 2008. I had a day job. I teach law. But I came together, I got in touch, she got in touch with me with an old friend who said, we've got to do something about what is about to happen in Washington. Because we, right now, have a handful of big banks who are trying to run the table, and just as citizens, we've got to do something about it. So we co-founded a group called A New Way Forward. She had a day job too. We held 178 events around the country with the most wonky, dorky chants you've ever heard about reorganizing the banking system. Those local groups came to Washington, advocated. We sat in the antechamber with thousands of petitions trying to get to staffers, getting to staffers on the Hill. The people of this country were absolutely with us. This area was so lucky to have Congressman Hinchy as their representative. But I gotta tell you, the reason the Congress members weren't following all the polling, the best economists, isn't because they thought they had a better idea, it's because their donors thought they had a better idea. So look, I am very proud of the work that we did on Dodd-Frank. We worked with 250 other groups. We worked with labor, consumer groups. We pushed like hell for the things that we got. But to move forward, we need to be really straightforward about how private financing of elections is the real reason we didn't get the reforms that everybody in this country wanted. It's because J.P. Morgan was running the table in Washington instead of the people running the table. I'm going to keep being there for you in 2016, in 2018, in 2020. When the door is closed, I'm going to still be fighting. I'm going to be opening that door so people's voices can get in, because that's the only way we're going to win these really, really important fights. This moment we have right now with the reforms, I can talk about taxes too, but we still have too much fragility. The system is too fragile. The banking industry is too concentrated. They are too big to fail, and too big to fail is too big to exist. We've got to break them up.
How's your fundraising going?
I think most people care more about the issues in the inside baseball, but I will answer your question. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that we outraised both of our Republican opponents in the first quarter. You know, we had a late start, both Zephyr and I. The Republicans have been raising money since last April. Neither Zephyr and I thought we were going to be running for Congress maybe last summer, until Mike Hine decided he was not going to run. So we're a little bit behind. I think we're going to have the resources that we need to compete. But here's what I'm proud of. 70% of my contributions come from small donors that live in this district. I'm extremely proud of that. 90% come from New York. I have not taken any special interest money. I have also agreed, as Zephyr mentioned, not to take any oil, gas, or coal industry money. I have not taken any PAC money. And it's tough. It's hard for a farmer to run for Congress, not because I can't get up to speed on the issues, not because I can't be a passionate advocate for the things that we care about, but because of the money that it's difficult to raise. We're on the phone every day. You put me here. The people in this district are the people that are funding me, and I can go to bed at night and be comfortable that when I get to Washington, you are the people that I'm going to be working for.
I'll answer briefly about the fundraising, but I want to address something that we'll implicitly address, but make it more explicit. Our fundraising is based on low dollar contributions. Our average contribution is $40. I'm incredibly proud of that. That's the kind of fundraising I want to do. Let's just be really explicit about what is happening in Washington right now. The day job of most Congress members is fundraising. It's between 40 and 70% of most Congress members' job. So in between there's policy, constituent service. The plurality, at least, is fundraising. They have to leave their offices to go off campus. They walk across the street and sit in little cubicles, and with sheets of paper in front of them, trying to think of jokes they can crack to make some rich donor write them a check. Nobody would design a system this way. They are not free to listen to their constituents. I have been an advocate for public financing of elections so that our Congress members can be free, make their own mistakes, not their donors' mistakes. And one thing that isn't often sort of talked about why we need public financing of elections is if you want people to work across the aisle, they have to have time that isn't fundraising, where they're actually figuring out, oh, we can agree on broadband. Oh, we can agree on this energy issue. Instead, we've created a system where it's like our Congress members are caged by donors. It is not serving the fundamental American ideas of representation and freedom. We've got to change it. I'm going to keep being a leader on that.
Okay, we've come to our closing statements now, but before that happens, I'd like to remind everybody that the primary is on June 28th. That's Tuesday. The polls are open from noon until 9 p.m. Those of you who get up early and go to the polls, don't call me in the newspaper. Noon to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, the 28th. Now, Laura, you want to say something before we... Oh, okay, when we're done. But I'm going to ask for closing statements right now. Mr. Yandick went first, so he'll go first, and Ms. Titoff will go last. So. The guy who got to go first in the beginning doesn't get to go last.
What about education?
I'm really happy to go first. It really doesn't matter. I know many of you came here tonight maybe expecting some sparks to fly and to come out of here thinking, geez, that's the core difference between Zephyr Teachout and Will Yandick. You've heard our aspirations and goals tonight. You've heard a lot of progressive policies that we share. And I think one of the reasons this has been such a cordial primary is because we agree on so much. And I want to thank Zephyr for that. Thank you. I'm just a positive person. It's my philosophy not to run a negative campaign. Any of you who have interacted with me in my campaign know that we are running a positive campaign, and I am not here to say anything disparaging about Zephyr Teachout's motives for running for this office. But I am here to stand in front of you and say that I think I am the best candidate to win and to keep this seat in this rural district. And thank you. And keep it we must, because of all the big problems that we talked about tonight, the really hard fights of campaign finance reform and addressing income inequality and protecting the environment and combating climate change. No matter how good I think I am, no matter how good Zephyr thinks she is, these cannot be achieved in a single term by a freshman congressman. So we have to think, how do we stand up for the progressive values that we believe in, but bring Republicans along to get results? That is what I have been doing my entire career. It is one thing to drive a bus into a rally and to talk to fractivists about the same things that they agree with. It's a very different thing, as I have done, to stand in front of a room full of Republicans in my town hall, many of whom don't believe in climate change, and get them to pass a ban on fracking and to help other towns do the same. I know how many of us have hungered for a change in the way our food system and agriculture works in this country. I have had those hard conversations with grizzled farmers in this district, and I can tell you those conversations won't be any harder with the Republican-controlled Ag Committee that I hope to sit on. I know many of us want to loosen the grip of corporate power in this country, but I have looked corporate power in the face as part of this power line battle and worked with Democrats and Republicans in this community to get a better deal for this community that isn't linked to the fossil fuel industry. That's the difference. That's why roots matter. That experience on the ground and bringing Republicans along to fight for the progressive values that we share is the reason why I want to be your next member of House and why I hope I'll have your support on June 28th. Thank you so much.
My dad got a black Angus bull calf, which was a bad idea. We lived in a dairy area, cheaping chickens, but you don't get a single black Angus because they're social animals. So it broke through the fence, ran, trampled the neighbor's corn, and he did what most nice fathers would do, which is he asked his 8-year-old daughter, I was a really fast runner, to walk up to the bull, wave in its face, and then run as fast as I can. Well, the bull chased me until I got back inside. My dad closed the fence and I climbed back outside. I am ready for John Faso. I am ready for Donald Trump. I haven't fought one fight or 2 fights. I have been fighting my entire life really tough fights, and I have been winning those fights because I work in basements with 3 people, kitchens with 10 people, on fracking, on Common Core. I have been working with Dennis Higgins on the details of how we deal with stopping the Constitution pipeline in small meetings for last year and the year before. This is who I am. And a year from now, and 2 years from now, and 10 years from now, you know that when whoever comes calling, I'm not going to be afraid. We're in a historic moment in our country. You can feel it. Politics is acting kind of crazy. This is a year for people who are tough enough to stand up when nobody else will stand up, who have a long history of speaking up when no other people would speak up and winning those tough fights. I want to win those fights for you next year and for decades to come. Thank you so much.